Hello, I'm Richard Chambers, and welcome to my continuing series of View from the Audit Trail. A short while back, I was leading a seminar in Dubai when I noticed a rising level of anxiety among those in attendance. No, it wasn't because I was giving the seminar, I hope. Rather, the topic of follow-up audits had come up, and many were recalling, not fondly I might add, their experiences. I could sympathize. As a young internal auditor, I was proud of my reports, particularly the findings and recommendations. It was a cause for celebration, but nothing was more demoralizing than when I would invariably undertake the required follow-up audit. I would find that my carefully crafted recommendations or management action plans had not been implemented. Management had agreed to the proposed corrective actions, but they had failed to follow through. The excuses ran the gamut. We underestimated the complexity of the actions we agreed to take. Your recommendations were not feasible. Like those in my seminar in Dubai, I grew to dread follow-up audits. The results were so often disappointing. I began to question their value. Fortunately, the IA's international standards for the professional practice of internal audit now provide much greater latitude in follow-up audits. Without getting too technical here, the focus has shifted from outputs to outcomes. Put another way, the Chief Audit Executive must establish a process to monitor and ensure that management action has been effectively implemented, or that senior management has accepted the risk of not taking action. IA guidance also offers alternatives. For example, CAEs may choose to inquire periodically about the status of corrective actions or to assess the quality of corrective actions taken. Others may elect to follow up on outstanding actions during their future audits. The approach is determined based on the level of risk and resources. As the guidance notes, some CAEs may still choose to perform follow-up audits. This would be the case when findings signal significant risk to the organization, and internal audit may face direct orders or expectations to undertake routine follow-up audits. In such cases, I recommend a very practical approach before scheduling the follow-up audit. Ask yourself several questions. Has management reported that corrective action is complete? I would never start a follow-up audit without asking that beforehand. There's no need to follow up when you know that something is still broken. Has management of the area under review ever tried to mislead internal audit? If so, that's a red flag and clearly warrants a follow-up audit. Was planned corrective action so complex that it likely resulted in unforeseen problems? Controls can break down when processes change, especially when those changes are complex. Are repeat findings likely? You may know of a manager who tends to make the same mistakes, or one who undervalues the importance of internal controls. Either increases the risks. But if operations are well controlled and the client reports that corrective action is complete, you might be able to skip the follow-up. Is a follow-up audit required by the audit committee or by regulation? This may be the case with higher risk findings, but if the CAE believes this would lead to inefficient use of internal audit resources, I urge a candid conversation with management and the audit committee. Consider alternatives as outlined in the IA's implementation guidance for Standard 2500. Of course, the decision is ultimately the board's, not yours. If you find that formal follow-up audits are too often necessary, you might ask yourself why. What keeps going astray? Are your recommendations vague? Are you unpersuasive? Do you fail to listen to management? Do you take their objections seriously? Is there a culture of non-compliance within your organization? Obviously, you should never overlook repeated mistakes, and that might even mean a follow-up audit is imperative. But repeat findings are as much a failure of internal audit as they are for management. Get to the root cause. It's better to prevent follow-up failures than to detect them after the fact. The objective is for corrective actions to be implemented. Effective monitoring can ensure that. Thank you for taking a moment to listen in on A View from the Audit Trail. I'm Richard Chambers.